Hey, can you hear me? No?
Can you hear me? I can hear you. You can't hear me?
I don't know. Let's see. It's picking. Oh, hold on.
This is not good. Hold on. Let me preferences. Test microphone. I'm sure you can hear me now once I do this. Can you? Great.
Wait, talk again. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
What'd you do?
I don't know. I unplugged my mic and plugged it back in.
Back in. Did you blow? Did you blow in the cartridge?
No. I don't know. It's been doing that. Maybe it just wasn't plugged in all the way or something. But the light was on. That was so weird.
That is weird. I don't know. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess it's recording. I'm gonna no, that wouldn't make any sense. So I'm gonna start recording now. Okay, we're good.
There we go.
Okay. Oh yeah, and then so we get a little break in between when Alma leaves and before Steven. So during that time, we figure we'll talk about like where the show's going, like what we're planning on doing, and have that. Perfect. And then Steven comes.
I have a feeling your schedule's gonna like go to shit.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. That's fine.
If it does, it does. Okay. I'm going to hit go live before I do. So I'm going live. So you all ready?
I'm ready. And we're live.
And we're streaming.
Yeah. Does it show?
It does. It says webinar is now streaming on Facebook.
Are you streaming it to the LOTF page?
Yeah. It is here, but I don't see us yet. If anybody can see us, here we are. Okay. Hi.
Oh. We're live.
We are live on Facebook, which means we're just about ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're watching on Facebook, I see somebody there. We are having our 3-year anniversary party right now. You can watch here on Facebook, but if you want to be part of like the giveaways and all of that, you got to go to Zoom. The Zoom link is there, so we're just about ready to let everyone in. Okay. So are we ready? I'm going to start the webinar and let people in.
Yeah.
There was some feedback before we let everybody in.
That was my bad. I brought up the Facebook thing on my computer and so there were two sets of slightly off. So
got it. Nice. Okay, just wanted to make sure before we got any deeper.
No. No, that's just my first tech error of the night.
Okay.
Let's do it. I'm gonna start the webinar. And we are broadcasting. We've got people popping in. Okay, cool. Oh, there's Bob, Lucio, Sarah. Yay. Okay.
Hey, Lucio. Hey, Sarah.
Okay, let me.
Very exciting.
Alrighty. Hi, everyone. We're just getting going here. Megan says hottest panel ever. Eli says aye. Okay, so welcome everyone to our 3-year anniversary celebration. This is going to be a great night. We've got a lot of fun things planned. So I do want to let you know that we are doing some book giveaways. If you want to make sure you're entered in the giveaway, just type anything in the chat. Whoops. Hold on one sec. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, just sorry, somebody was okay. Yeah, just type anything in. Oh, there's Jessica Guess. Hi, Jessica.
Jessica.
Type anything in the chat. You can just say hi. I'm going to download the chat later, and that way I know who to draw names for the giveaways. We're giving away 3 books for sure. We're giving away a copy of my book, Hell's Bells. We're giving away a copy of Mackenzie's book, All You Need Is Love and a Strong Electric Current. And we're also giving away a copy of the Halldark anthology that Kathryn, McGee, and Mackenzie are both published in. And then we also have some special guest authors that'll be popping in throughout the night, and they're going to be giving away some books as well. So just make sure you type something in the chat. If you're watching on Facebook, come on over to the actual webinar in Zoom and type something in the chat. And yeah, so Kathryn McGee, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You've been on the show several times. We're, probably once a year at this point, if not more. Do you want to just introduce yourself, and we'll get going.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here with you guys, and I'm proud of you for your 3-year anniversary. So congratulations on that. It's been cool watching you from the beginning put together this amazing podcast, and I remember sort of your fearlessness at early Stoker cons, approaching authors you didn't know and asking them to be on. And I remember thinking how bold you were to walk up to Paul Tremblay and ask him to be on. And now you have this this amazing show you've been doing for several years. So I'm really proud of you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember exactly who. Paul was definitely the first person that we interviewed. But I think the first person that Lisa and I walked up to was Grady Hendrix, because we attended one of his extra classes, right, Lisa? We attended one of his classes at StokerCon, and I remember looking at you, Lisa, and I was like, I think that we should have him on. And so Lisa and I got like our little new business cards out, and we just walked up to Grady Hendrix like it was normal. It wasn't. We both got into the elevator. Was it after Grady that we went into the elevator and screamed? Because we did wait for a moment.
Yeah.
I don't remember when was that? When was that?
I don't even remember. There was a lot of screaming. I know we've Bob has probably heard this story before, but we got, it was at that StokerCon that Michael David Wilson tweeted about listening to the show, because I think we had only put out like 1 or 2 episodes at the time.
Two, yeah.
It was like the Joe Hill episode, and I think
Best Friends.
My Best Friend's Exorcism. And Michael David Wilson tweeted that he listened to the show and that he liked it. And I was like in the bathroom at StokerCon, or one of us we were in our hotel room, and I started screaming, and you're like, what's wrong? And I was like, Michael David Wilson likes our show. Yeah. And it was really, really funny. It was a good time though. That was a good StokerCon. That StokerCon kind of kicked it off. It was the 2018 one.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a bunch of interviews, and I think we interviewed John Palisano and Lisa Morton. I know we interviewed, and it was fun.
That was one on the Queen Mary.
No, it was the one after. It was in
Providence?
Rhode Island. Yeah.
It was in Providence. It was that year that everybody that they were getting hit with like the double storms. Yeah. And like, I'm on the West Coast, so I'm in California. And so I'm not used to those storms at all. I was shocked that people were still like going about their like lives, I'm like, oh my God, people showed up for work at Starbucks. Are you fucking crazy? And then one of the storms was like still going on, just like raging in the middle of the night. And so I'm waking Lisa up because there are like sirens outside. And so I wake Lisa up and I'm like, do we need to get to a shelter or something? Like, what's going on? There are sirens. Like
The thing I remember about that was that the Starbucks and the hotels stopped receiving food deliveries because of the storm for a few days.
That's
and
right.
so all the bakery items slowly dwindled down to just the cake pops.
Yes.
So they were wondering what's left at the end. It's a single cake pop at the end of time.
Yeah. And my mom was worried. She was texting me and she was concerned that we were going to run out of toilet paper. And I was like, oh my God, Mom, the hotel's not going to run out of toilet paper. And now we're in COVID and people freaking panic bought toilet paper. I'm like, she was onto something. Like, toilet paper is something to be worried about.
And Sarah Antlinger's
Yeah.
commenting that she remembers the poor pizza man getting pummeled by the storm while people partied. Sounds about right.
That storm was nuts. I also remember Grady, we went to Grady did this, it was like where he does the sisters story from the, I'm gonna butcher this because do you
It was 3
remember
years
what I'm
ago.
talking about? Yeah, but it was the
Mhm.
story of the sisters who they discovered somebody help me out here. It's okay. But yeah, they discovered it was like the spiritualist sisters, and he
Yes.
did this whole thing, and it was like with candlelight, but the storm was happening outside the window, and it kept like blowing on the window, and at one point the window kind of blew open a little, and it was just added to the atmosphere. It was so fun.
Oh, God,
That was a really great trip.
Oh, and that's when we were sitting next to Paul for that too. There like weren't any seats. And so you and I like went up front and we're like, oh, I guess we're sitting next to Paul Tremblay. That's what we do now.
Yeah, it was a really, really great time. And it was so cool because I think at that time it was a brand new show. We didn't have many episodes, so many people trusted us with their time and had no idea who we were. And I think that was one thing that was really cool at the beginning was just like, people giving us, hearing us out and being like supportive. And yeah, it was just really great.
Well, and to back up a bit, what made you guys want to start the podcast?
Well, I was I was just like, I had just moved to New Jersey. I had a new baby. I had no friends here yet. And I was listening to podcasts, walking with my son. I would listen to This Is Horror and a bunch of other podcasts. And it was this weird thing that made me feel less lonely in a way. It was like, oh, I was like hearing about all these different people who had similar interests to me. And then I know Mackenzie, you and I had always wanted to have a collaborative project, and I just randomly texted you one day and was like, do you want to start a podcast? And you're like,
right.
Did you say like, what's a podcast?
Yeah, I totally did. I had no idea. But it was, I had no idea, but it was really, really perfect because you and I were already having discussions about books. And that's one of the things that like, really made it, that's one of the things that like kind of really made it come together for me, that made it full circle, is like we were already like doing it, we just weren't recording and broadcasting it, and so yeah, when you explained it to me, it's like, oh well, this sounds so easy, we're already doing it. And it's super not easy because it's like anything else, you have to keep a schedule, you have to be disciplined. And Lisa edits Lisa edits and then puts up all of our episodes. And so, she's the god in the machine here.
Oh,
hey.
Who is this?
Hello.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for agreeing to join us tonight. You're our first guest tonight. Tracy says it's a surprise, Paul.
Hey. No, thank you. And congratulations, 3 years. Wow.
Thank you. We were just talking about how you were one of our first guests on the show, and how cool that was that we had like 2 episodes and you were like, yeah, sure, I'll let you interview me and talk to you. Yeah, this was awesome. Well,
that happened. Didn't that happen in Providence? Right?
Yeah,
it was StokerCon, I think.
Dean says such timing because we were just talking about it.
Right.
Yeah. No, you guys had like a corner. I remember walking by, and every time I walked by, I feel like you guys had someone else there. So it was definitely a good place and a good time to start.
Yeah, it was just like this really cool way to get this backlog of interviews in a way, because there were people there already. So
right.
Yeah, it was great. But yeah. Oh, and I also want to mention, if anyone has any questions they would like to ask Paul, you can put it in the Q&A. You could also put it in the chat, but the Q&A, make sure we don't lose it as people chat. But just wanted to say that. But yeah, we wanted you here because you've been really supportive of us, and it's really meant a lot. It's been awesome.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate it. It was easy to support because you guys, I've known you for a while. I first met you through Riverside MFA program, right? I knew you before the podcast, right? Yep. Yeah. I mean, I never got to go there as a student. I only did like one. It was an amazing trip. I think it was like 2011. I got to go out and teach a class in horror, even though at the time all I'd had out was a couple of weird crime novels, but I guess I was still the horror person. It was always in my heart. No, so I don't know, like, I feel like I get to be a cool little part of that MFA family, even though I've only like had little attachments. I mean, it helps that I'm friends with so many people who either went to the program or teach there.
Yeah, and Kathryn, didn't you just recently interview him for the long distance residency? Which is so sad to have to not be able to go.
Yeah, it's normally in person, but it's on Zoom, but at least like there's access to people like Paul to be able to hop in and do a lecture and, you know, do an interview and talk a little bit, but absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll keep, I mean, when I say we, you know, I'm guessing we'll keep some of the Zoom thing. I mean, it is sort of cool to be able to do events with people all over the country, you know, maybe get access to more people than you normally would. But, you know, I still would have rather to gone out to Palm Springs for sure.
Well, Zoom doesn't have the pool.
This is true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, hi, Alma.
Hey.
So, Paul, you mentioned that you went there back when your books, all you had was like the Little Sleep and stuff, but those are coming back around again.
Yeah, I mean, I also had, I guess, a couple of horror short story collections, but yeah, it's good timing. The Little Sleep, my first novel, was just re-released. Man, it's weird how time works. Because the novel came out in 2009, but I wrote it in like 2007. And I haven't even read it since like probably 2009. You know, my publisher just took the book and said, okay, we'll put it out. I'm like, okay. Didn't send me any new edits. So, wow. Which is actually, that's a really kind of fun way to, you know, I wish I could do all my books with no edits like that. Yeah. But unfortunately, I'm nowhere near a good enough writer to be able to do that.
It must be satisfying to see it get a new life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because that was sort of a strange experience. And I think I wish more like first novelists or first, you know, writers, when they get their first deal with a big publisher, you know, I try to talk about it sometimes, but like the idea that like when you have a deal with a big publisher, you think, oh, this is great. The red carpet's going to roll out. All my problems are solved. I'm not going to have to do self-promotion and stuff like that. And I was like, whoa, it was a very sort of jarring experience. You know, I had some, you know, bad luck that my acquiring editor left, like, you know, only a few months after she acquired the book. And that's never a good situation because, you know, the editor I was assigned was great. I mean, she was great at editing, but she had no personal stake in how the book would do. And it certainly wasn't her fault. It's just you know, it was just a weird thing. And the publisher was going through like a new head and everything. So yeah, things didn't really go well with the first two books. I mean, to the point where after like the second book just totally tanked, I was like a depressed writer for years and bitter. And it took me a while to learn that, like, you know, jealousy and bitterness, you know, is the mind killer, is the page killer. You know, I mean, we still all have it, but, you know, I think everyone has jealousies when they see, especially in the age of social media, where you can see everyone announcing all these amazing things they're doing, and you feel like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing anything. But, you know, it becomes important, I think, at a certain point in your career to be able to recognize why you're feeling a certain way and be able to like put like, oh, I feel this way because of this. And then it's much easier for me to sort of dismiss it. But I really had to learn that the hard way, unfortunately. And, you know, when I finally emerged from those like self-pitying years and bitter years, I don't think it was it ended up not being a surprise to me that when I emerged from that sort of dark space, I was able to write A Head Full of Ghosts. Almost like when I got out of that finally, that's the book I wrote.
And then that came to you pretty whole piece, right? Like you had it pretty much right away once you had it.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I mean, so I will say I was in the middle of doing another book that I was like just struggling with, was like carrying a boulder up a hill, wasn't going anywhere good. And then, yeah, I just got lucky with that story idea. I'm just glad I didn't screw it up.
Yeah, and then, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's a question for Paul if we're there, and it is from Carrie, who is my dad. So Dad would like to know, did you start with small publishers first? What was different once you went to a major one?
Oh yeah, I mean, for like 10 years, small publishers, mainly like selling short stories, but my first short story collection in 2004, 2005 was a small press. I did a novella in like 2009. I don't know. I assume the big difference would be I wouldn't have to do any self-promotion or self-advocating, which I learned is not the case. But obviously the amazing part is that the books were actually in bookstores as opposed to the independent press. I still I like the smaller presses. I enjoyed the amount of freedom that I had. So I mean, there's definitely a push and pull, but it's I don't know. It's the pressures are different. Like when you're with learning to write. I mean, it was a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong, but learning to write like under the pressure of a deadline of a and I'm sure Alma can talk about this too, but like of a contract. I'd never done that before. When I sold my first novel, it's like, oh, I sort of just did that on my own, and now I have to write this second book, and it's due a year later, and that was just a totally new experience. So I don't know. Like it's all new, it's all different. I just and I want it to be that way. If it ever gets boring and stale, then I don't know if I would do well with that either.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
You tend to work with the same editor for book to book now?
Yeah, so I've been very lucky at William Morrow. Jennifer Burrell is my editor, and she's amazing. She saved my career, and I don't say that lightly. And I don't know, I wish everyone had someone like Jennifer because she's no bullshit. She's been at William Morrow for a really long time, so she's not going anywhere. She better not be going anywhere. She better take me with her. And she edits like Joe Hill and Neil Gaiman and holy cow, and then she took me.
You're in good hands.
Yeah. I'd say.
Yeah, and she when she sends me her edits, she's great. It's because it's not like you have it's never presented as like this is what you have to do. It's always suggestions. And I'll never forget with Disappearance of Devil's Rock, the book I needed the most help with, because I just sort of handed it to her as like a mess and said, please help. And I went into New York City and we were having a lunch and just talking about some of the edits she had sent. And she said, well, very friendly. We just had a chat. She's like, why does this happen in the book? And I would explain why I thought I did it. And, she just kept asking like, well, how come? I can see that, but why? And she kept asking the same question, not overbearing. Now I forget, I went to the bathroom and I usually solve my problems in the bathroom, which is weird. And when I came back, I was like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. Her continue, gently asking me the same, some of the same questions, help me figure out for myself, as opposed to her, saying, no, this is what the scene should look like. Because I don't know, all writers would have a harder time with that part of it. So I don't know. I mean, Jen's the best. I wish everyone could work with her.
That's awesome. Well,
Thank you so much for thank you so much, Paul, for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it, and we understand too that you're on East Coast time, so it's quite late for you.
I know we have a big snowstorm coming, and most of the schools have gone remote except for mine.
The snowstorm is already here for me.
Oh.
Yeah. And everything's closed already. They already announced it's closed. So
not my school. Well, I'm sure we'll probably be closed on Tuesday because it's not supposed to hit till Monday afternoon. But good luck with the snow, Lisa. And congratulations again for 3 years for your wonderful podcast. Here's to many, many, many more.
Thank you for sharing
Thank
your
you,
time.
Paul.
All right.
Thank you.
Hi and bye, Alma.
Alma, hi.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome.
I was admiring your poster of Red Widow behind you. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. I kind of learned the hard way that I probably should be a little bit more hardcore on the promotion. I had the opportunity to moderate a panel for Comic-Con this year, and it was all these best-selling authors, not me. That's why I was moderating it. And Jasper Ford, who does one of our Thursdays is Missing, those kind of surreal books. His latest book has anthropomorphic rabbits in it, and he had all this rabbit stuff. He was surrounded by rabbit models. And I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it. So there's my poster.
I love it.
That's amazing.
Congratulations on 3 years. That's a lot of dedication.
Thank you.
A lot of hard work.
wild. Yeah, it's a lot. It's so funny because we were talking earlier before we started, well, at the beginning, about how we were like, let's start a podcast. It'll be easy. And it's not.
Well, you
Yeah.
learn a lot, right?
We
in
do.
the
Yeah,
process.
yeah. It's not easy, but it's also, it helps that we have each other, so we keep each other motivated to keep going. So that's a big thing. And then also, it's just been very rewarding, and being able to create a platform where we can give a platform to other writers such as yourself, like that's just been really cool for us too. So it's like this cyclical experience of like giving and giving back and receiving that way, you know. It's really cool.
It's an integral part of the horror community for sure. So
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much on behalf of the writers, for helping to support other writers.
Of course.
It's fabulous.
No,
and
thank
then
you.
yeah, go ahead.
We specifically wanted to have you on for this anniversary too, because you're like kind of like one of our very new favorite friends that we made this past year. It's like you're one of our COVID friends, where it's like, I feel like we would have met at a convention or something, but we didn't, and somehow we still managed to all get together. And so, thank you so much for being like this really wonderful, new, inspiring voice, like just on our podcast. And so we really appreciate you.
Oh, you're so kind. You're so kind. I don't feel very inspirational at all. I love listening to Paul and hearing him speak so candidly, about the tribulations that you have in your career. And, it's been 10 years and God, when are the tribulations going to stop? That's what I'd like to know. One of the things I'm really kind of upset about is that we're rounding on 1 year with COVID, and I'm launching my second book under COVID, and it's so hard. It's so different. And it's, like everything's changing again, in addition to the disease. That's bad enough. I'll just whine about my own personal little problems, but
No, we all.
my gosh.
This is the place to whine about book launches. This is the place.
Oh my goodness. It's really, I always kind of wig out 2 months or so before a book comes out, but I'm really wigging out this time because what do you do? It's so hard to connect with readers. Again, why something like this is so important.
Yeah. At least with the online format, you can reach people around the world, but it's not the same as being in person.
Well, somebody asked me to write something about in doing the promotion for Red Widow. One was something on the challenges. And, I had to say, because, my last book, The Deep, I'm going to hold it up if you don't mind, because there's so many books titled The Deep out there. I want to make sure they get the right one. But that launched, I was on the road when the lockdown started. So they pulled Penguin Random House pulled all the authors back. I was on my second or third night of the tour. And I remember it took about a month, but, bookstores and a lot of people adjusted to life online really quickly. And I remember, because that happened in March, April was just full of events, and you'd get onto Zoom and there'd be hundreds of people. I guess because everyone was terrified, locked down in their houses, and just wanted the reassurance of other people. I don't know. But here we are a year later, and I think things have changed a lot in that year. There's a lot of Zoom fatigue. People don't necessarily want to do a book event. And so people are kind of, trying to beat the bushes, be creative, and think of new ways to reach out to audiences again, and to find readers. So yeah, I'm a little terrified too, because I'm switching genres. So while I've been lucky enough to kind of build up a base in horror, people who are into spy thrillers don't necessarily know me, or they know me as a horror writer, and they're skeptical. So yeah, it's really anxiety making time.
For sure. So where do you promote for spy thrillers?
Well, I'm relying a lot on my publisher. Putnam does a lot of thrillers and a fair number of even spy thrillers. So they've got a pretty good reach, and they've been trying. But it's tough times for publishers too. Like, I was just talking to my editor, Sally Kim, who's the editorial director of Putnam. And, she was explaining to me, one of the things I was freaking out about is this launch is nothing like previous launches. Penguin Random House made the decision, no physical arcs, for instance, and no swag. So they won't print up anything for you right
Wow.
now. So like we have to rely on NetGalley, you know, to get galleys out there. And it's not quite the same thing. I mean, it's got its pluses and minuses. And then that's just being replicated across the board. So yeah, it's pretty much crazy making time right now. Yeah, trying to reach out through. So I don't know if you guys know, but the reason I'm writing a spy thriller is because I worked in intelligence for over 30 years. And some people might say, why didn't you write a spy book first, you idiot? But it didn't work out that way. So I'm kind of going through a lot of spy channels. There's associations for retired intelligence officers, believe it or not. There's an association for women in intelligence, and they've been wonderful because the book really is about sort of how life is for women in intelligence as opposed to James Bond and Jason Bourne. It's
Right.
a little different for women. So anyway, but we didn't come here to talk about spy novels.
But we did too. Well, you know,
Yeah,
that's
we
part
did.
of it. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
we-
think, yeah,
we're here
go
for
ahead, go ahead. I was just going to say that I feel like, you know, I saw somebody comment on your Twitter when you were talking about it, and they were like, you know, some of the greatest novelists have written across all genres. So, and I feel like horror fans, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, attendees, but I feel like horror fans are like, once we hook our, you know, into an author, we'll read anything they write, even if
Oh, yeah.
it's not exactly that genre. But
I
I mean,
hope so.
speaking for all of our attendees, I would definitely agree, because I mean, I don't think that it's that far-fetched to assume that if you're into horror, you're not then going to go into dark science fiction unless you really hate spaceships, you know?
Spaceship.
Right. Well, you know, it's probably just more author jitters than anything else. I do have wonderful readers, and I get a lot of reassurance that people are looking forward to the book. But, you know, Paul kind of hinted at it a little bit too. The career of a writer is a very uncertain one. You pretty much live book to book. And, you know, I say this all the time, you only get so many swings at bat. You know, if you don't have your breakout novel by a certain point, you're not going to get those contracts. And we've been really lucky. I mean, like The Hunger did so well critically, but, you know, I still haven't broken the New York Times bestseller list. And if it seems like all your readers, I mean, all your authors are New York Times bestsellers, that's because the ones that don't make the list tend to get dropped. So, yeah, I'm really feeling that, you know, like I'm Cinderella and it's about to chime midnight here.
Did you? So I remember we talked in our interview where you mentioned that there was some iffiness about like what you're allowed to write. So were there any challenges with any of that? I just was wondering how that worked with putting out an actual spy novel this time.
Yeah. So when you get a clearance, intelligence clearance, you sign an NDA and you agree that for the rest of your life, if you write anything that has to do with the work you did, you will give the agency that you worked for the ability to do what we call pre-publication review. And they can come back and say, we want this out, we want that out. So I've been writing a long time. My first book took 10 years to sell. I wrote it for 10 years. And I wrote other novels during that time, including some really bad spy novels. So I had a lot of experience going back and forth with CIA and to a lesser extent NSA, because I actually worked for both agencies. And I found that the pre-publication review process is very, it swings like a, you know, it's not clear sometimes what the criteria is. Sometimes they interpret it very, very broadly and they want you to take out every little thing. So I did hold my breath, even though I knew there was nothing classified in this. And
Right.
Sure enough, they didn't ask for one change. Thank God. Who knows what's going to happen the next
Perfect.
time. But yeah, I was really very nervous about it. And also they've changed their ways. In the past, they used to not tell you, they wouldn't give themselves a deadline. It was like you threw it over the transom to them and who knows when it was going to show up. They held on to one of my books for a year and a half.
Wow.
But in the
Oh my
last
God.
few years, I know, and there's no recourse, right? Like you can stand outside the door and scratch or whatever you want, but they're not going to listen to you. So but a few years ago, CIA said, we're going to try to turn around things in 30 days. So, and they've been pretty good with me. I did a 12-part serial graphic novel for Porsche, the sports car people. And it was based on, it was a spy story. The editor said, I'd love to have something like Atomic Blonde, but with Porsches. So that's what I gave them. And they turned those scripts around in like 2 days. Of course, it was like totally cartoony. So, but yeah, it hasn't been as onerous as I feared it would be. Just hope that continues.
Do they need to review anything that you write, or just if it's in this kind of genre that's associated?
So it's also very political, and it varies a little bit from agency to agency.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, CIA kind of trumps the other agencies. Like they'll turn it over to another agency if they think it's in the other agency's purview. But so far they've been very good about it. So I'm sorry, I just completely blanked on what you had asked specifically. It's very late for me.
Do they need to read something like The Hunger?
No.
Okay.
So they will try to get you to submit your manuscript for review, but the guidelines are clear. It's only if it has something to do with your work, what you did for work, or, and they would rather err on the side of caution, but of course you don't want them to mess around, right? So it was funny, by this point, by the time I was under contract and I had sold the taker and they knew about it, the person who headed the pre-publication review board was actually the spokesman for CIA at the time. And we knew each other now. And he's like, oh, Ma, I heard you sold a book. You really should think about submitting that to pre-pub review. And I said, it's about magic and it's a romancy kind of book. And I think it would be a gross abuse of government resources if I submitted it. And that's the last he said on it. I said anything about it.
That's amazing. So Carrie asks, is there a critical period in a launch, like a book launch?
Oh, probably a lot of critical periods. I mean, the biggest thing is, you're trusting your publisher to build buzz about the book. And that means, they're trying to not only reach out to influencers like yourself and book reviewers, but they're also trying to get booksellers to read your book and get excited about it and agree to carry copies of it. They're trying to convince Barnes and Noble and Target that this book is good for them. And, that's why ARCs have always played such a key role in this. And people love to get that physical copy in their hand. I'm sure you guys know. Your eyes, you just get really tired of reading PDFs and, ebooks.
Oh, yeah.
And not having that physical ARC, it's a bit critical. The other thing I've learned is, you used to have a little bit more of a lead time on promotion, like especially media leading up to the launch. But I understand now that media prefers to do things like really close to launch. So I won't know until I've been asked to write a couple pieces for a couple media outlets, and we're about 2 months out. And that's probably only because I bugged them so much. But I think a lot of it's going to end up being at the last minute if I'm lucky enough to get more. Yeah.
And then let's see, we've got one from Dino. He asks, did your agent have any issues with you shifting genres after you had culled a horror following?
No, not the agent. Although I think if he had had his druthers, he might have said, really. But it all actually started with my editor. We had been having breakfast one day, and she just happened to be in town in Washington, D.C. So I drove out and met her, and we were, she was telling me how sorry she was that The Americans, the TV series, was about to end. It was going into its last season. And she looked at me and she said, what I'd really like to see is a spy novel that's kind of like The Americans, and it has that domestic aspect to it as well. And then she looked at me and she goes, you think you could write something like that? And I said, give me a week and I'll give you a proposal. And we ended up working on that proposal for months. She has pretty high standards for how twisty and devious a book has to be. And so, she just worked with me to make it more and more. And so it was sort of presented fait accompli to my agent. who is a huge espionage novel fan. So yeah, it's been interesting all around. He's very supportive now, and he's the one that, oh, I was just about to say something that I think I'm not supposed to talk about.
Oh no.
Well, I've kind of mentioned it elsewhere.
That's okay.
I won't go into details, but we've optioned the TV rights to it. There's going to be a
Ooh.
TV series. Yeah, I'm
Congratulations.
very excited. I can't give any details. The announcement in the trade should be out any day now.
That's
It's
so
taken like
exciting.
7 months. Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Amazing.
I'm like, so he got me that deal. Can't complain.
Right. Right. Oh, I'm very excited for you. We'll have to talk later in the year.
Yes, absolutely. Well, also I'm going to be an executive producer, which is
Oh my
yeah,
God.
pretty surprising. Yeah, because I don't know anything about TV. But
Wow. Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah,
You.
congrats.
They figured they needed someone who actually knows the spy business to sort of advise.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was gonna ask you, what's that experience like being able to mine details from that type of work? Because so often we quit a job and move on, but to be able to like look back and really pull from it must be kind of special.
It's interesting. So I'm very old, and I've been in the kind of positions, like especially the last third of my career, where I actually had to like reflect a lot on previous experiences. It kind of like lessons learned in a way. I mean, that's what you do when you get really old. It's your experience that hopefully you're going to draw from. So that's been helpful. It just makes it easier to like come up with plotting and come up with alternate ways to handle something or something like that. So yeah, it's really been, I don't know that I could have done this in my 40s, for instance. You know, just having that extra time and extra experience for something like this, so I can do it quickly.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
I think that's great perspective too, is just, I think people, and we were talking about this with Paul, I don't know if you were on yet, where we were saying like, he was saying like, you see all the social media, people getting this deal, getting that deal, putting out this book, and there can be this real sense of like, if not a race with other people, like a race with yourself, right? Like, oh, I'm running out of time, you know, I need to get this done by a certain amount of time. And it's just like, it's not true.
It can be very destructive. Yeah. It can be very destructive, but if you're careful, it also can be a good motivator. So, you know, I told my agents a couple years ago that I really wanted to try to break into TV. Not to be afraid, I would still write books. But at that time, streaming services were really just starting to take off. And literally, it seemed like everybody I knew in horror had a TV deal. And I was like, what is it gonna take to get a TV deal? And I said, that's it. You know, and so I like changed the film agents that we were working with. You know, and that was, you know, calculated. He found me a wonderful agent, but she's not like the big names that everybody uses for book to film. Because what do they need me for, right? I need somebody who wants to sell my work. Anyway, so, you know, I use that as a motivation. And one person I looked to was Don Winslow, the crime writer. He writes those narco thrillers. And he says, you know, he's coming into this late in the game, like me. And so he has to push because he has to make up for lost time. And I kind of feel the same way. You know, I'm a little older than these guys, and, you know, I'm not gonna have all my faculties for much longer. So I have to do as long as I can.
We think that you have all of the faculties, and we appreciate all of the faculties, all of them. Yeah. And, you know, thank you so much, Alma. I realize that it's so very late your time. And so we really appreciate you coming in just to drop in and hang out with us. Like, thank you. We're so pleased to have met you this year.
And
thank you for having me.
We know you said you were going to give away a book, right? We're not going to do a drawing now, but if you want to let people know one of the books that are, a copy of the deed.
But I'd like to give away the trade paperback, which is coming out in a couple weeks. And here's another thing. Normally you'd get your your author's copies a month in advance. Haven't gotten them yet, and I don't know when they're going to be in the mail. But as soon as I get them, I will mail one out to the lucky winner.
Awesome.
Ooh,
thank you so much. We really appreciate
you, Alma.
staying up.
Thank you.
To hang
Have
out
a good
with
night.
us.
And congratulations again. It's wonderful, ladies. Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Alma.
Bye.
She's incredible.
I know. I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I always appreciate hearing about people's writing process and their long journeys because it makes me feel better about my own.
Alma's just one of those people, man, where you just look at your life and you're like, I haven't done enough, you know, like.
Eli says same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. It's like, well, we all need to go back in time and just, you know, and work on being a CIA agent so that it helps our writing career, right? It can't be that hard, right?
Cool background.
Oh,
I'm
that's
really
so cool.
excited. Yeah, about Red
For
Widow.
her.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm really excited about that, and that she also landed some ominous TV gig. That's cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I was thinking the whole time that The Hunger would be a really cool TV show.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it would be amazing.
I haven't read it. It's a Donner Party story, so it would be fun, kind of stretched out.
Yeah.
I could see it making a, yeah, it would be
I love a good
perfect.
cannibalism narrative.
Yeah.
Just it. Don't we all? I mean, this is a horror panel. Don't we all just want just a little cannibalism in our shows? Just a little bit.
Eli says a TV show would ration that out nicely. Nice.
Good one.
Eli's always
That's
good
a
with the
dad
puns.
joke, Eli.
Yeah.
Go home with your dad joke.
Speaking of dad jokes, your actual dad said he needs to explore his previous career as a swim instructor.
Me too,
Yeah.
Dad. Me too.
I think mining those career experiences is really good though, because that's where you get the details.
Yeah. I think that that's definitely a big takeaway of talking with Alma is whatever you did before, whatever you were doing before, whatever you've been doing, you know, while you were writing and not making money from writing. It's like you can use that. It's all fodder.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So what do you guys think is next for the Ladies of the Fright? How do you see your show format evolving?
Well,
Lisa, I currently have a toddler that is driving his shopping cart back and forth. So if you wouldn't mind taking this question, there's a lot of noise on my end.
So we are actually for 2021 sort of reformatting the show. I don't think people should be nervous about this though, because we're basically going to continue to do stuff we've already done, just in a slightly new way. With that, is that fair, Mackenzie? You can nod for yes.
Yes. Yes.
So you know, last year was really rough for everybody, you know, and one of the things that Mackenzie and I kind of took away at the end was that we really missed talking about books. In the beginning of the show, we talked a lot more about books. We did like book episodes, and then we got really excited, like meeting all these authors and talking to all these authors, and it just started to get to the point where we realized, like, now that we built all these relationships and connections with the community, we want to get back to talking about books, but with authors. So we're going to start moving away from what we've been doing, which is like a long form interview, because there's so many amazing shows you can already go to for long form interview. This is horror, there's Ink Heist, you know, so many great shows. I think Horror Podcast does a lot of those, and yeah, there's another one. Oh, Dead Headspace, is that the right? Anyway, there's a lot of like really great long form interview shows, and so we are going to shift back to doing. We'll be bringing authors on still, and then doing shorter interviews with them at the beginning of the show, and then bringing them on to talk about a book that isn't their own or a short story. So it'll be more of like deep dive into craft and what makes a story tick. And we'll be kind of exploring that particular author's strengths by talking about different books. Oh yeah, Mackenzie's dad says, Carrie Cox, excuse me. We'll keep it professional. He says, maybe talk about blurring the line between horror and dark fiction. That might give you a hint to who is going to be on our show very soon. Talking about those blurred lines.
One thing
yes,
that you and I,
Sarah. Sarah says it's fun listening to what books other authors love and are inspired by. Yeah, so it'll be more like deep dives into books and what makes them tick, but we'll still be doing shorter interviews so they can promote their work and themselves. But we just kind of were starting to think like there's so many shows who are having on like all the authors in the business and like doing these really incredible long form interviews. And so we just want to get back to talking about books and kind of like shift into our own special niche with what we're doing within the horror podcast community.
Well, and I feel really too, and I feel like this is one of those instances too, Lisa, where this is like the brainchild that both of us kind of had, because we had like a really strong urge and desire to push the podcast into more of like a craft last year, but because of COVID and, you know, because you were pregnant, like all of these, like, and you were moving, it's like, and all these things, I was super busy with work. And so we honestly just really didn't have the brain space to completely implement what we wanted. And so kind of the moment that like Lisa came back from after having her daughter,
all the pregnancy hormones like left, and I was like, haha, I'm back.
She had, yeah. She was like, okay, this is how we should do it. And it's like, oh my God, let's have people on to talk about all of these books that came out last year and then promote the books that they're about to give, like that they're about to have out this year. It's like, this is perfect, because one of the other big issues that we ran into is we would get an ARC or we get like, you know, one of those new beautiful hardcovers from Alma, and we couldn't talk about it. You know, it's like, we have to kind of
you don't
really
want to spoil.
You can't spoil. You don't want to spoil. Yeah. You're helping to promote that new book. And so, you know, we wanted to be able to kind of dive a little deeper into the craft of it. And so now if we're talking about those books a year later, but with authors who have a new book coming out, well, all of a sudden now we can talk about the beginning, middle, and end and really get into like the nitty gritty of it, while also helping authors promote their books. And so oh yeah, what's up?
I was just and we're gonna not just talk about books, we're gonna also talk about short stories.
Yes.
And we'll add some poetry in there too, some horror poetry. So yeah, we're gonna Sarah Tandlinger, I'm looking at you.
I know.
Wink.
I love that, because when I love something, I'm so excited about it. And as my good friend Megan Eccles often says, when I love something, I love it all the way. like it's all I want to talk about when I find something that I think is incredible. So I think that that'll be a really fun format for people to share.
It'll just add, I think, some more excitement. So Megan says she loves LOTF all the way. I think it'll add some sort of like excitement and just, I think when you've done something for 3 years, for us, it just got down to the fact that as much as we love these conversations that we've been having, you want to change it up and do something a little creative and, challenge ourselves so that it doesn't start to feel like a chore, or it doesn't start, so it stays fresh and exciting and fun for us.
Mix it up.
Yeah. It was necessary, just for the networking, honestly, like just to meet people and to show that we could actually, in fact, promote their books and get people to love those books just as much as we did. And so now that we have that, hopefully, fingers crossed, now that we hopefully have their trust, now we're bringing those authors on to, to chat about other people. And I think that it's a really great way to just kind of really build this whole community. It's exactly like what Paul was saying. It's like, we're not against each other. Like, we're all in this together. Like, it's a community.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephen.
Hello.
Stephen.
How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Y'all can hear me and see me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God, is that your new office? Your office is incredible.
Yeah, it's all my junk. Yeah.
Awesome. It almost looks like a backdrop.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Carrie says you should get some more books.
Yeah, I know.
That's my dad.
What does your shirt say? Watch more.
Oh, watch more horror? Yeah, Fangoria.
Oh, nice.
Straightforward.
Well, we had to have Stephen on, and luckily Saga let you out to play. And we were just talking about who we wanted to have come celebrate 3 years with us, and we're like, well, Stephen is basically part of the reason why we're here. I mean, I think you and I, Mackenzie, we were always kind of like reading horror and not realizing we were reading horror, and then it was Stephen who was like in grad school. So we worked with Stephen at UCR Palm Desert. All three of us did, actually. And I know for me, it was like you handed me a Joe Hill book and you're like, read Joe Hill. And Mackenzie, he gave you something. What did he give you?
I don't think that it was so much the book. It was it was parts of Game of Thrones that I was really liking the most. And he was like, oh, those are the horror parts. And that I was like, no, it's just fun. And he's like, yes, the horror parts.
Yeah.
For me, it was Burnt Offerings, which changed my whole world.
Yeah. It's so good, Burnt Offerings. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lisa, I would guess I gave you Nosferatu probably, or do you remember?
No, that was me.
You okay.
You told me to read 20th Century Ghosts, I think is what it was. And this is where I really reveal how like totally horror naive I was. I didn't even like know he was Stephen King's son. I just read this book. I'm like, this guy Joe Hill that Stephen told me to read, so he said he was good for some reason. But yeah, and then it was realizing that I realized like all the other things that I liked in like Neil Gaiman and all these other people I had been reading, it was the horror stuff. And once I realized that and embraced it and started actively seeking, it was like I suddenly had more than enough to read, or too much. Like I still haven't read it all because my shelves are now overflowing.
Yeah, no, I haven't either. But that's wonderful. It's wonderful that we always have more stuff to read, I think,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think a big problem was like I would read these books before and be like, I don't know what to read next. I would have trouble because the stuff that I thought I would read. Yeah. Like there was some fantasy I like, but I don't like all of it. And then with horror, it's very rare for me to find a book I don't like. So it was, it's pretty cool. And in a way we kind of credit that experience for helping us realize that's what we always liked in the first place.
Yeah. Cool. Wonderful. It's amazing that it's been 3 years that y'all been going. That's forever. That's so cool, man.
And we all graduated over 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know it seems
like,
like,
oh my gosh.
It seems like so recently that I was in class and someone was trying to balance a Madagascar hissing cockroach on my tongue,
Oh, yes. Which I still have pictures of. This thing was like this huge. It's not even an exaggeration. I might even, Jamie says, what? Megan says she still has nightmares.
This is the thing. And Lisa had prepared me too, because Lisa was she's a quarter ahead of where I was, because she was technically my mentor in the program. And so she's like, just wait for Stephen's class, because Lisa was excited. She's like, okay, so I have Stephen's class next, and I think you're going to be in that one. That's the one we share. And I'm like, okay, I wonder what's going to happen. And I expected that it was going to go down kind of the same way that my other classes had, where, we sit down and then we talk about fiction. And then, in your class, we sat down. And you turned to Lucio, who I believe is here tonight, and you're like, okay, are you ready? And Lucio's like, yeah. And I'm thinking, ready for fucking what? What's about to happen? And then, you knelt down and Lucio put a cockroach on your tongue.
The cockroach didn't want to go on your tongue. It kept trying to run away. I have a picture. Dino says pictures or it didn't happen, and I'm looking for a picture. So I'll speak amongst yourselves.
We're calling on Lucio too.
I think the backstory everyone's missing is that Lucio, who is also in school with us, is a bug scientist. And I know that there's a word for that I don't know, but he would bring a pet or an example, a specimen to workshop each time.
What I was never clear on was like how he was able to sneak them out of the lab. Like, was that allowed, or was he just like
cockroach? Like, does anyone care
like
that
a
much
fancy
about cockroach?
Exotic cockroach or
I
something?
think they were testing pesticides on them though. So the cockroach was gonna.
It was like an illegal cockroach, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Lucio can tell me.
This is when we find out that they actually put like something that had been exposed to like radiation on Stephen's tongue.
I know. But Lucio, he said later that we should have cooled the cockroach down. Then it would have posed for a picture. Because every time we put it on my tongue, it would just run across my face because it thought it was going to get eaten, I guess,
As they do.
It was afraid.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you. Whoa, sorry. We'll all talk at once real quick. We're recovering from the cockroach memory.
I was going to say, so Stephen, what are you writing now? How's it going?
Right now, I'm right now writing. I started a Bigfoot story about 30 minutes ago, and I hope to finish it right after we get off the phone because I want it to be a short story, like 3,500 words. And
Nice.
I have the picture.
Oh,
you found it.
look at
There
that,
he is.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, we can't talk or it goes away, huh?
Yeah. And here's it with it on your head, because that was the closest it would go. It wouldn't go in your mouth.
Typical.
Welcome to grad school.
Carrie Cox wants to know why horror. What drew you to that?
What draws me to horror? Horror has the potential to provoke a visceral response from the reader that the reader is not necessarily willing to give, and I really like that power. I think all the other genres, romance or science fiction, you go into it kind of signing an implicit contract with like the reader goes in having signed a contract with the writer or the genre that I'm going to feel a sense of awe, or I'm going to get swept away in that kiss at the end, or whatever this genre delivers. You're kind of signing a contract that you're going to feel, that you're going to make yourself susceptible to it. With horror, you read a horror novel and you're like looking for the zipper on the suit the whole time and looking for the boom mic to come down because you want to not be scared. But then come 2 a.m, you're walking down the hall to get a glass of water and you find that novel is still in your head, that story is still in your head. And horror does that without your permission. It's not nice at all, but I like that it can do that. Horror can change it can change the way you move through a parking garage at 3 a.m, and I'm really, really attracted to that. I really like to watch people read horror novels. If I see somebody in a lobby of a hotel reading one, sometimes I'll kick back and watch them because they don't exhibit like super relaxed body language, and I like that. I think art should be uncomfortable and it should provoke you.
I just want to know what that person thinks when they look up and you're just like watching them.
I feel like is that Stephen Graham watching me read this book?
Well, and you were kind enough too to join in the book giveaway, right?
Yeah, I'll give away Only Good Indians. The trade paperback just came out like this week on Tuesday, I think. I'll sign one or not sign it or do and mail it to whoever. Probably in America is probably best though, because international mailing gets complicated now.
Yeah, I think we have to limit it to US. I probably should have mentioned that at the top of the the event, but
yeah,
shipping otherwise just gets wild. So Did you finish? I think I interrupted when you were answering what you're working on now. Did you?
Oh, just that Bigfoot story I'm writing. I started it this afternoon, but it looked like it was going to take 7,500 words at the way it was unfolding, and so I scrapped that one and I started a new one that can go over in 3,000 words. I hope that's the plan, So, what my big goal is, I want to wipe away all my deadlines by tomorrow, so I can start a new novel in February.
Thanks.
I wanted to know too how you're doing without going to all of the conventions, because generally you're like going to so many a year. Like, is this feeling good or is this kind of feeling weird?
I mean, I love being home with my family, of course, and being at my house is great because I just got all my junk around me and I can wrestle with my dogs and watch my horror DVDs and just have a great time. But I do miss just walking across the hotel lobby of a convention. I just love that. I feel when I'm there, I also feel like I'm home. I feel like I can stop and talk to any person, and they're gonna have stories from their junior high that are very similar to my stories from junior high. And it's nice to have that sense of community. Actually, I move in and among a lot of different writing communities, and the horror crowd is where I've found the most sense of belonging, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, we were talking to Alma a little bit before you came on, and that's like kind of one of the things that we were commiserating about is, we kind of had to meet her through Twitter and Uber conference and then Zoom, because that's like kind of what we've got right now this year.
Yeah.
So we're definitely very fortunate to have people like you that we've like been able to meet just like throughout our podcast and then also schooling career. So,
Yeah.
you know, thanks for kind of being here also throughout this year. That's just been
Oh,
so
yeah.
fucking weird for everyone.
It's been super weird. Yeah. Yeah. And I think we all keep waiting for it to go back to normal, but I don't know if we'll ever go back to the way it used to be, but we'll go back to something anyways, you know?
Yeah, it's so interesting
Yeah.
to try to think about like what will normal look like after this. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
even thinking about, I mean, not to go on this whole tangent, but just thinking about, will it feel weird to be around people even if,
Yeah.
like at what point will that not feel
I don't
like
know.
not safe?
When can we sit within 6 feet of each other and not be like,
Yeah.
A fairly dense area, and if I go out walking, I hold my breath when I walk by
Yeah.
someone. I hate them if they're not wearing a mask, and it's a lot of emotions to experience on a simple walk around the block. I don't know how I'm gonna move past it.
I know. Yeah. And you know, I wonder if book tours aren't going to be like hybrid book tours from here on out, you know? Like
Hmm.
for a publisher, it's a lot cheaper for them to make me a Zoom event than it is to fly me to 6 different towns in 6 days.
Right.
You know? So I wonder if publishers will like target 2 or 3 key, you know, bookstores across America or whatever, which how can you do that? Because there's so many wonderful ones, but and then do the rest through these kind of events, which I mean, that wouldn't be the end of the world. As long as readers are getting to engage with the writer and the books, then I think that's good. But yeah, in person is always most comfortable for everybody, it seems like, you know.
Yeah. It's been interesting though, like my book club has had higher participation during the pandemic and people from all
Mhm.
over the country now, and then we can bring in
Yeah.
authors from all over. And so there's more connection, even though it's a bummer to not be able to be at the actual bookstore. So it's hard to know what's better with all that. It's just different, I
Yeah.
guess.
Maybe like after this book club will be like 12 people there and 14 people on laptops some around, you know.
Yeah, and maybe we'll have holograms by then. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Know about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
We have a question here. Carrie wants to know what drives the decision to write a short story versus a novel.
Very rarely do I have a short story become a novel. It's happened maybe once or twice. I generally when I
Mongrels.
yeah,
Right.
Mongrels is the one time it's for sure happened because I thought that was just gonna be a werewolf story and then it turned into a novel. I always, or not always, I shouldn't say always because of Mongrels, but I usually know I know what the parameters are when I sit down to write a piece. I know if I have a book deadline looming or if I've signed a contract for a story that's not more than 4,500 words or whatever it is, you know? And so I never have to really think about, is this a story or a novel? I do sometimes have to think, is this a story or is this flash fiction? I mean, not that flash fiction isn't stories, but that's always an issue for me. Not always an issue. That's sometimes an issue for me.
Yeah, I was trying to think about that for myself, and I feel like for the most part I always know.
Mhm.
I don't know. Or it just seems like it only has enough in it for one or the
Yeah.
other, or it could only be a novel because there's so much.
Yeah.
Or it
Well,
could
you
be a
know,
novella because there's just like A to
Yeah.
B.
you know, with a novel, when you're laying down the character initially in the first few pages, you're probably setting them up for some sort of redemptive arc, you know? Whereas in a short story, you're often setting the character up for a decapitation, which is a totally different setup, you know? Characters live through short stories a lot less often than they live through novels, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like the red shirts of craft.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally
Well, I think I think it's just because in a short story, if somebody reads a 17-page short story and everybody's in a pile of blood at the end and dead, you're like, yeah, that was fun. That was like 20 minutes of my time. But if you read a novel that's 600 pages and it takes you 5 days to read it at the end, if everybody's in a pool of blood dead, you're kind of let down, you know?
Yeah.
I think when you invest that kind of thought and emotion and time, then you expect it to pay back in some way, you know. And I'm not saying novels always have to end on some sort of up moment or anything. Those are the ones that I prefer, I think. But I think for those to even matter, that means some have to also go down, you know.
Well, and sometimes it could be almost more devastating if they make it in a sense, because they have to like live with
Oh, I know.
what's happened, right?
For sure. Yeah, like what's that movie, Last Girl Standing, which is kind of a part 2 after a slasher cycle. Have y'all seen Last Girl Standing?
No.
It's a final girl having to deal with the trauma of everything that happened when the slasher came for her and her friends, and it's not pleasant. Like we always, like, we see the sun coming up at the end of Scream and we're like, yes, we won the day, but yeah, it's by noon there's going to be a lot of chemicals and alcohol and therapy,
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I think what I'm thinking of specifically is, and I think most people have read this by now, so I'll try not to spoil too hard, but Paul Tremblay, who was on earlier, his Cabin at the End of the World, and that ending, and I won't give away what happened in case anyone hasn't read it, but that last line of something of like, we must go on, was basically, but after everything that happened, that the worst thing in a way that could happen is to have to go on.
Yeah.
And that's almost worse.
Yeah. No, the wonderful thing about horror is you always get one last twist of the knife, and I always say that the job of the horror writer is to go like 2 steps further into the darkness than the reader is willing to go. That's why they're paying $1 or $20, whatever, for your story, is because you'll go deeper than they will,
Right.
Your job is basically to hold their hand, and you have a candle here and their hand here, and you walk them into a dark room, then you blow the candle out and let their hand go, and that's what they want. That's what they're paying for,
Yeah. And those are the moments that stay with you as the reader forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That definitely happened to me recently with Mexican Gothic. Oh my God. That was definitely, that was a good one where, I didn't really know where we were going or how it was all working, but it was, and it was beautiful and it was perfect. And she blew that candle out for sure.
Yeah, and that book grossed me out. Like, mushrooms gross me out completely. If I accidentally touch a mushroom out in the woods, then I'm going home,
Just burn it down.
Is it just wild mushrooms, or like what if someone like puts an accidental mushroom in your food? Is that?
Yeah, I don't eat that food.
You're taking him there, huh?
Yeah. It's mushroom omelet in your future.
No, not at all. Yeah, no mushrooms. Yeah, I understand that there's a lot of health benefits, and like people really believe in mushrooms a lot, and I think they probably are pretty good for everybody. Hey, Todd, but
hey,
they're really weird to me. I can't eat them.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much for being here with us tonight, Stephen. Lisa, I'm not sure if we were supposed to have these guys together or if we can let Stephen bounce.
No, Stephen's got to stay.
Stephen has to stay with Todd.
Right there. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Look, everyone who's watching this thing right now, there's one great writer operating in horror other than Paul Tremblay. It is that guy right there. Scariest motherfucker on the planet.
It says so on his new book. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I miss him terribly. I miss you terribly, Stephen.
I know. I want to be out there. I had to buy my own pool table because I can't come play pool.
I should have learned how to play pool during the pandemic so I could stop losing. Made a terrible error this entire pandemic.
You still have another year, Todd.
How dare you?
I'll let y'all go, and y'all have a great time. Thanks for having me.
Steven.
See you, Steven.
For your story.
Todd.
Happy anniversary!
Yay!
Woo!
Happy anniversary to us. Thank you so much for everything. Huh?
Woo!
Todd is wooing. He's a woo.
That's just-
Todd's a woo girl.
Oh, you would have been so good with us in our first couple of days at StokerCon when Lisa and I were brand new to podcasting and we were meeting all these authors. We were waiting until the elevator doors would close to then high-pitched girl scream so that we would just be with each other. I feel like you would have been really good in that moment, Todd.
There is some dude with the access to the closed circuit camera inside that elevator who every day shows the new guy, let me show you these 2 women. I don't know what was happening, but they got in this elevator over and over again, screamed, and then hugged each other and said, "Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
No. It's like, you know us. That's exactly what happened.
Oh, so Todd, we had to have you come tonight. Well, if you were available, which you were, so we're very glad.
Yeah, I'm not real busy most nights at 8:40 during the vast global pandemic.
On Sundays?
Right.
On a Sunday with no football.
Yeah.
You picked the right day.
Definitely. The right pandemic, I guess, too.
The right pandemic, yes.
The right year of the pandemic.
Right.
I hope there's not going to be like a second one.
I know. Really.
I've had that fear.
I think we all do.
Oh my God.
Well, for people who don't know, Todd Goldberg is, in addition to being a New York Times bestselling author, he is also the director of the MFA program that Mackenzie and Kathryn and I all met in. And we really wouldn't even have this podcast if it weren't for Todd for several reasons. Number one, because he accepted us into the program. Otherwise, we wouldn't have met.
Mistakes were made, right?
Mistakes were made. Todd, you have to live with that. It's not really my problem. And he also made Mackenzie and I, Mackenzie was my mentee in the program because I was a
quarter ahead. Yeah.
You were a senior. She was an upstart freshman.
It's true.
And then you have a podcast, Literary Disco, which I listened to. And so when I pitched the idea to Mackenzie, I said it would be something like Literary Disco and This Is Horror, but a horror. Like horror is like, This Is Horror is like a interview format. And then yours is like talking about books. So I wanted to do a sort of mesh of those two. And so it, we have you to thank. So everybody
you're
bow to
saying,
Todd.
so hold on a minute, just so I understand this completely. You're nothing without me.
Oh,
is that? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Too far.
Well,
I just wanted to, like that. That would be the short version.
I mean,
I do still have the message of you accepting me into the graduate program saved on my phone. So. So
well,
there's that.
Here's what I can tell the viewers and the listeners here about all three of these fantastic women. When you accept students into a creative writing program, it's not just like accepting a student into school and they go and they do their work and then they leave and that's it. When you're accepting a person into a creative writing program, or at least the creative writing program that I founded, you're accepting them into a significant part of your life, your emotional life, your creative life, your social life, every little part of it. And so when I make these decisions about who I want to invite into my life, it doesn't happen without a lot of thought and consideration. But for the three of you, it was easy. You could tell from the first words on the page for all three of you, the rare talent and the profound kindness and empathy. And that's all you really want from the people that are going to be in your life for the rest of your goddamn existence, and then into the afterlife too. Apparently, it seems.
Yes. Yes. If this is an extension of the afterlife. And then my dad, who's in the chat, says, as a dad, I like this guy.
Megan Eccles says she's crying.
Yeah.
Don't cry, Megan. Don't cry.
But then you had to read my really terrible book and tell me I had to start over. So that was
same.
It happens.
Todd called to give me notes on my book. And I was like, well, I bought myself a big bottle of wine in case I need to drink it after this call. And he goes, you're going to need that.
I definitely remember that. And I definitely, when I'm looking back at school in particular, something that I took from what you preached and what you taught at the school about networking, I've definitely carried into our podcast, into a career life, into any kind of convention that I go to. And it's that, those people that are around you, that's your support. It's they're not your enemies. I mean, unless they're like total crazy pants, then they can be.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, have enemies. It's
it's healthy.
Yeah. Like 2 minutes ago, I was texting with my dear editor and we were discussing mutual people that we hate. So
yes,
have a few.
It's important.
Yeah, but surround yourself mostly with the people that you care about.
Well, we had there were a few of us, and we called ourselves the family, because it was just like the 5 or 6 of us that kind of traveled around in a pack together. And you guys didn't even like blink at that. You're like, oh yeah, that's not weird at all. And we're like, no, we're in it. Like, we know it's weird. It's okay. Like,
We called Todd the Todd Father, so why would
Right.
you blink it?
Like slightly cultish, but not too bad.
It's
Right.
a little bit of a cult, but like we're allowed to do what we want, and like
Yeah, I mean, I've always sort of imagined myself as a kindly dictator, a democratic authoritarian.
I think the special thing about this group from our MFA program, but also the broader horror community, is there is this kind of immediate family-like connection where you realize these people have this thing in common with me in terms of what they're interested in and how
Yes.
they, and it's such an instant bond. Even with some people I basically know mostly through Facebook, it's those relationships have become really important to me.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the thing about writers groups in general, and what I presume you're all experiencing in the horror group. And there's some crossover between the horror writers and the mystery writers. We're all the outcasts, right? We're not the sad literary people. We're the people in the bar talking about how we're going to get rid of a body. You guys will just use like a necromancer. I actually got to go out and dig a fucking hole. But finding people that share a profound affinity with you really is important, because like they understand the meds that you're on, both literally and figuratively, right?
Yes.
And that's so important, because once you have those people in your life that get you, and you might not be fans of their work, and they might not be fans of your work, but they respect you and they respect your game, as it were. That's just an important part of this career. And for me, it's always been pretty easy, because of course my brother is a crime writer. So when all things fail, I still have a person in my family that I can turn to if I need to, like if I have to go to Lee. But it's the same for him, like there's plenty of nights at midnight when I'll be in bed watching the Night Stalker documentary, and my brother will text me and say, how fast does a body dissolve in lava? Like, is it super fast? And I'll just be like, here, let me Google that for you. But like having those friends in the real world is an important thing. So I'm glad you all found each other. I'm glad you made this show, and that you're expanding your friendship to Perfect Strangers. We just did a live episode of Literary Disco yesterday for the Sonoma Library, and there were all these fans that showed up, and we put them up on camera and we talked to them, and what you guys are doing is a similar thing. You have these people that accompany them in their lives, in their ears, as they're going about their daily business, and that's a profound relationship. Like, they feel like they know you, for better or worse, and that's not a relationship to take lightly. What you guys do, it's fun for them, and work for you, but it's also it's about an intellectual life they wouldn't have without you.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Sure. And that's $500 Starbucks gift card.
You're very profound.
Todd, you should tell us about your new book.
Yes.
Oh, do you mean The Low Desert?
I do.
Right there. It just so happens to be right above my shoulder.
Oh, I was like, what's he pointing at?
I think it's
What
the
are you
picture.
pointing at?
Oh my
The
god,
picture.
it's right. It's over. It's right
there.
there.
Oh, it's right there. It's right there.
Yeah,
Oh, there it
do you
is.
see my thumb?
I
Yeah.
Go
can't.
up from my thumb.
Okay. Oh, it's
Christ.
just it's so small.
I just
Well,
saw
it's a book and it's in the background. I don't have a dude with a sandwich board out here low deserting.
Look, Alma had a poster behind her. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
I saw that and I was impressed by it. And she also revealed something that you're going to have to call her about. Never say, after they say you're going to be executive producer of your TV show, I know nothing about television. Just fake it. Just fake it. Just
That's not
lie.
That's not.
I'll figure it out that you don't know anything, but by that time you're already in the room. So The Low Desert, which comes out on Tuesday, is a new collection of short stories. There's a bunch of murder stories, like Stephen was talking about. There's a few short stories that end up with a pile of bodies that then someone has to burn. but there's 12 stories. All of them have some sort of connection to bad guys doing bad things in an organized fashion. There is also at least one story with a clown in it, based on a clown that if you ever come to Palm Springs, you know all too well.
Oh God, that sounds ominous.
So here's the thing. You guys never encountered Harpo the Clown?
No.
What?
Well, your chat is going to blow up. Someone from the MFA program post a photo of Harpo.
Oh no.
So there's a dude. Well, theoretically he's a dude. We don't know. He's in clown makeup.
Right.
There's a dude named Harpo.
Mm-hmm.
And he shows up in bars and restaurants throughout the Coachella Valley, the greater Palm Springs region, dressed as a clown. And like, you'll be in a restaurant, like, you know, eating a meal, and you'll look up, and there'll be a fucking clown walking through the restaurant. And it's absolutely horrifying because he's a clown. But like, he's just sort of given free reign in these restaurants and bars in and around Palm Springs. He's been doing it for like 35 years. Because when I was a kid, he's ageless. You know, he's Bob Gray. So he's this ageless clown that wanders the bars and restaurants of Palm Springs. So there's this one bar and restaurant called The Nest in Indian Wells. And on a Friday night, you roll into Indian Wells Club, The Nest. Yenny has put an image of Harpo in the chat. I see.
I'm looking.
You roll into The Nest on a Friday night.
No,
it's the human papilloma virus run amok, and it's Harpo the Clown dancing, just getting it on. So it's horrifying, and I'm deeply scared of him. And so I was like, I got to write a story with a murder clown that takes place in the bars of the greater Coachella Valley.
It seems to be uncomfortable to be in the clown costume in 120 degrees.
So here's the thing. He's never not in the clown costume. So like, say for instance, you're going to the grocery store. There's an alum of the program, in fact, Katie Gilligan, a lovely woman, who had an experience that she immediately texted me, where she was driving to a restaurant. And hello, Heather.
Hi, Heather.
Hi,
and
Heather.
She looks into the car next to her, and driving in the car is Harpo the friggin' clown.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
And he's just not doing any clown business. He's just getting places. It's horrifying.
Todd, Eli wants to know if you and Harpo have ever been photographed in the same place at the same time.
Ooh.
I have been with Harpo. Like, Harpo and I know each other. So this is the frightening thing.
What?
Yeah, because Harpo and my mom were friends. And so, like, I'll be somewhere. I'll be like, hey, Harpo. He doesn't speak. He just uses a fucking...
Yeah. He's a clown.
He's a clown. So I don't think we've ever been photographed together. I know what you're aiming at. Am I Harpo the Clown? Am I? But here's the other thing.
Is he a bad guy?
In the story?
Hmm?
He ain't a good guy. Here's the other thing. This is important. There are now dueling bar clowns in Palm Springs.
What?
Oh my God, do they have a clown off?
There is a woman who dresses up like Charlie Chaplin and goes into bars and does creepy stuff. So here's where you can see that person, though. And Heather, we're going to get to you in just one sec. Here's where you can see that person. The worst television show that has ever been made is on Amazon Prime. It's called Mark's Place. And I watched it because another writer friend of mine was like, dude, you got to watch this show. You might have to sue them. Also, it's the worst television show I've ever seen. And it's about a Chicago gangster who hides out in the desert as a bar owner named Murph. So I don't have to sue anybody. And Lucio, yes is the answer. And they've made a television show that takes place in a restaurant in Palm Springs. It's the worst show I've ever seen in my entire life. It's 17 minutes long, each episode. There's 8 of them. It's terrible. I'm going to do a podcast just about this show. And very early on, I think it's episode 1 or 2, the weird Charlie Chaplin clown shows up.
Oh my God.
With no explanation, just there. So what were we saying? Where were we? Are we gonna see? Do we get to see the logo now? What's happening?
You were Harpo. That's where we were going with all this.
So anyway, so that's my new book, The Low Desert. It's out on Tuesday, and we're gonna give away a copy, right? We're gonna give away a signed
Yes.
copy to somebody. So I don't know how you're gonna do that, but someone's gonna win a signed book, and you're gonna get to read a story about a fucking clown. That, if Harpo, if you're watching, is not based on you.
Sounds like a great plan.
Ominous music.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And seriously, all jokes aside, we are so grateful to you. And yeah, we're just
Indebted.
Yeah.
You are most welcome. I'm super proud of all of you. I'm proud of Heather too. Super proud of Heather.
We're all proud of Heather.
Love Heather. Heather's
Oh,
a
yeah.
top 5 human.
Oh yeah.
I
You're
also
on
still have my voicemail from Todd inviting me to the program.
Aw.
And it plays whenever I randomize my music on my phone. It'll just throw in the voicemail for some reason. And I'm like, oh,
That's creepy
That's
as
not
hell.
creepy.
Yeah.
I don't know why it thinks that that's something that goes with music, but you know, it's a pick me up sometimes.
A lot of people think
Right.
I'm a rapper, you know. I'll do 16 bars. I can do it.
You're like, hey,
All right, hey, lovely to see you guys.
Bye,
How
Todd.
how do I get to see the new logo? Do I have to watch now on Facebook?
You can watch on Facebook, or you can stay. You can.
You want to stay? You're welcome to stay.
Do I have
But-
to? Should I turn off my I'll turn off my
Oh,
camera.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Todd.
Thank
Well, or
you,
can I
Todd.
keep my camera on?
You
If
can
you
What do-
want
keep
to,
your camera.
you can.
Okay.
You
I
get
won't
to do
talk,
kind of whatever
though.
you want.
I won't talk.
Hi, Heather Scheeler. Welcome. So the reason we wanted Heather to come, Heather was also in the program with us. This is just a big old UCR Palm Desert
Yeah.
party, basically.
It really is. Represent.
I've got my residency bracelet still.
No,
Whoa.
mine are all in my
Not doing great.
on my gear shifter in my car. I have like five of them.
Yeah.
But Heather is also, in addition to being a writer, she's an incredible artist, if we do say so.
She can also sing one day if you guys are ever on a car trip with her and Wicked plays. She can also sing. I was singing in this is my exact singing voice, by the way. It's not lovely at all, as my dad will tell you. My singing voice is not great. And Heather is a gorgeous songbird, and it wasn't okay.
No, we were both screaming. I don't think it was singing. It was just screaming.
But she is an amazing artist. I'm sorry I cut you off, Lisa, but I had to also acknowledge that Heather has a gorgeous voice.
Don't,
I'd also
don't
like
be
to
sorry.
compliment Heather on her plants. Quite a green thumb. Beautiful
Oh my
plant.
God, yeah. Oh, the plants.
Oh,
Yeah.
there it
That's
is.
the only one I can turn my computer to see, but they're out there.
Beautiful. Well, we had been wanting to rebrand for a while and like thrown around some different ideas of like who would do it, and then
Yeah.
we actually saw Heather designed a podcast logo for another person who was in our program, and I sent it to Mackenzie. I was like, we got to ask Heather because it
Yeah.
would be amazing, and it did not disappoint. So we were very excited. So is everybody ready to see our logo? Okay.
Drum roll.
I'm going to ready, they said. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to share.
There we are.
Here is
Damn.
the logo.
Oh.
Give it
That-
up for Heather, please. Give it up for Heather. She is incredible.
I love it.
This is our
My
logo.
Yes.
I can't see what's happening in the chat, but I'm going to also show you because she designed some stuff for like our website and like
Is that a pentagram?
Yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
what Heather did is she kind of made us a little personalized. Lisa is a total badass as far as tarot goes.
So in my
And so
hat are all the suits of tarot.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And if you look on the hat rim, there's little cups for the cups, and then the feathers that's for the swords for air, and then the wands, and then the pentagrams for the pentacles. But then if you look at Mackenzie, she's got her earrings, her grandmother's
Oh.
necklace.
And then I've got emu feathers too. They're in my hair. And that's because I had emus my whole childhood. And so I just, so those are in there. So thank you, Heather, for capturing little details like that just make us who we are.
You guys look very cool. I love it.
We basically wanted it to be like way cooler than we actually look in real life. Like
This
basically,
is
it was
so
like our
badass.
best day
It's so
ever.
bad.
Yeah, this is, yeah, totally. I mean, but Lisa, I thought we planned to tell them this is how we woke up each morning.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry.
I love Mackenzie's eye shading. Super cool.
That was
that's all Heather.
by Alexa in the 100, because we always
Mhm.
told Mackenzie she looks like her, and Alexa has this like really cool like eye makeup that goes down underneath like that, and that's where that came from.
It
Yeah.
looks just like you guys. It's really great.
Heather is a genius. So Heather, do you want to say how was it?
I'm just sitting over here like excited. Oh, this was so much fun to work on. I was so excited when Lisa messaged me like, hey, I was just curious if you would be interested in doing a logo for us. We're going to be hitting our 3-year anniversary. And I saw what you did with the other podcast logo. And I was like, oh my God. Yes,
Yeah.
that sounds like so much fun. Because it's such a great brand. It's such a great podcast. And you guys are both so gorgeous. And you said, you know, Lisa wants to be a witch. Mackenzie wants to be a Viking. So much fun stuff to work with.
Yeah.
And then actually getting into it, we had a group chat going on Facebook, and it was so wonderful working with you guys, because I would draw something up and they'd be like, oh, that's great, but what if we do this? What if we do this? Can we change this? Can we change this? And we were chatting as I was drawing on my iPad, and I'd send them another version and make the edits and send it to them. And we had this wonderful back and forth until we got it where we wanted. So it was a blast. I was so excited to get to do this, and I love you both. So thank you.
You
for letting me
were
be part of this.
amazing to work with. You
Yeah.
anytime we were like, I'm sorry, can you just change this one thing? You're like, all right, stop right now. This
I
is
was
your
going to-
design.
I was going to
Mhm.
start charging you for the apologies. Sorry, I'm like, no apologies. Like, this is your logo. You're going to be stuck with this for a bit. Like, whatever you want, I will change. I am not going to be sensitive about it. And they kept saying, I'm sorry, could you? Like, guys. But you guys were wonderful to work with. So
No, it's awesome. Like, you just started doing digital artwork a few months ago, right?
yeah, I finally got an iPad in September, end of September, and started doing that because I had only done acrylic painting and sculptures and drawing before. So moving over to an iPad was a big change, but it means I can do stuff like this, which looks so much better in a podcast logo. So
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Well, and it
learning
was so
curve.
cool because we would like be like, can you change this or do that? And you could like change certain things but leave other
Mhm.
things, or like go back a couple steps, and like it's so amazing. I was like, I'm in awe of you being able to do this. And you gave us little individual pieces. We also have,
Yeah.
that's the other thing. We are also, because now we have this amazing logo. So now
Mhm.
we're gonna have merch. We're gonna have a merch shop. We're gonna
We
have
are.
mugs,
You can
t-shirts.
you can put our faces on like anything.
You can drink out of our faces. You can.
can.
Wear a hoodie if you're cold.
I'd like a
Not as
lunchbox.
weird as it sounds. Todd, stop making faces.
Todd.
A notebook.
Yeah.
It's gonna be cool.
We're very
But-
excited. And then on the back, Heather also designed us a little ribbon that says "Stay dark and stormy." And so she just did this absolutely amazing job. Just attention to detail is incredible. And so thank you so much, Heather.
thank you guys. This was so much fun. I had such a blast working on it, and I love you both. So
We love you
Thank you.
too. Do you have?
I love you.
Is your website done yet? Or do you-
Shameless plug.
So shameless plug. I meant to get my website up and running this week, but I have had a horrible cat not eating, scary, miserable,
Right.
vet-filled week. So unfortunately, all I
Little
have
delayed.
is kind of a temporary Wix website while I build my official one. And I couldn't get my custom URL to direct to it. So I have this horrible junky URL. So what I've done is I have made a link tree
Ooh.
that is on my art Instagram page.
Which is
So
Okay.
it's kind of fun, hop around. But you can find me on Instagram, Cats N Plants Art. That's Cats N Plants Art. All one word is my art Instagram. And then the link tree will take you to my website. and Facebook page and things.
Well, Heather, you have a very special project that you're also doing that you can share. It's called the Mountain Practice. You want to talk about that for a second before we wrap up?
Thank you. Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm going to be doing a Kickstarter in June for what is essentially a good habit building deck of cards that helps you, you draw them every morning and it tells you, go for a walk or read a book or reach out to a friend you haven't talked to in a while or write a page, whatever your path happens to be that you want to be improving on. So it's going to be a deck of cards that I designed and hopefully something that is very fun and pretty that you can add in if you're bad at building good habits like I am.
Sounds wonderful.
And you can find that, is that the Mountain Practice on Instagram or is there? Yeah.
Yep, the Mountain Practice on Instagram and Facebook. And I will eventually have a website too, which I intended to have, but poor Vernon.
Poor kitty.
It's okay.
My
Yeah,
entire brain this week.
I think most of us have been following Vernon's progress, so please don't worry about that.
He's gonna have a lot of teeth removed tomorrow.
Oh,
Baby.
poor guy.
Yeah, my little black
And
cat.
Kathryn put the your Instagram handle in the comments if anyone is interested. Oh, and then Yenny put your Redbubble shop.
Yes, I have some art up for sale on different things, like they were talking about mugs and sweatshirts and things. A bunch of my art is on that at the link that Yenny put. Thanks, Yenny. So.
Well.
Oh, and Dino says he wants an LOTF butcher knife. I'm really excited about that. I would like an LOTF butcher knife as well.
I don't know if
is the logo on the blade or the handle.
It's just there. It's the whole thing.
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know if butcher knives are an option in our print shop, but I'll check. Or maybe we'll just have
a request.
Someone made for Dino.
Right.
Oh man. Hoodies and coffee mugs.
It's going to be so much fun. Thank you so much for giving us this wonderful thing that we worked on together, Heather. It was amazing to finally have a project with you. That was one of the great things because I know that I left UCR right when you started UCR, but we were friends before that. And so it was really wonderful.
You're the reason I joined, because you were like, there's this amazing grad school that you need to go to. And I was like, what's an MFA program?
Can I just say that writing your letter of recommendation was like the most terrifying thing I've ever done, because I knew Todd was going to like read what I had to write. Was like, there's no getting around this one. He's not just like not going to read a horror book. Like he has to read the letters.
Yeah.
Like almost didn't accept Heather because of me, huh?
It was touch and go, but fortunately, Heather got in on her own merits and not the laurels of her friends. Thank God.
For that.
And I knew one day she would put a pentagram on one of our students, and I would find pleasure in that.
It's true.
Here we are.
Well, thank you all so much for coming, people for commenting and participating, and to Todd for joining us, to Heather for joining us and designing our beautiful logo. And if you need a logo, check out Heather because she's awesome. And yeah, I think this wraps up our night.
It's a wrap.
Yeah.
How does the giveaway work?
So I'm going to, everyone should have made sure they commented in the comment box, which they did in the beginning. I'm downloading the chat and I will be drawing names after the event, and then I will just notify the authors who are contributing. Oh, Paul also messaged me to say that he is giving away a copy of The Little Sleep.
So it's everyone.
Every single author that came tonight is giving away a book, and we are also giving away a copy of each of our books plus the anthology that Kathryn and Mackenzie are both in.
All dark.
So that's a total of, my math is bad, which is why I was in an MFA program. Is it 6 books?
I don't know.
6 books. 7 books.
7.
Sorry. 7.
Together we can do this.
So we will draw that, and then for the so Todd, when we draw a name for your book, we'll just message you their name and information, and you can mail it off to them.
Sounds good. I will do that, and I will put in a $50 bill.
Oh. That's unnecessary.
I'm not going to do that. I just want a lot of people to request it, so I feel wanted.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
They'll want your book. It's gonna be a great book.
Of course.
Well,
Right.
what do we say, Mackenzie, at the end of the evening?
Stay dark and stormy.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 This was
Proud of
fun.
you guys.
Thanks, Todd. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.